any other. And it is admitted to be the living religion of the day with the potency for spreading as Vishwadharma or universal religion. We are glad that the matter has been taken up by some enthusiastic sages like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj and his disciples. We shall eagerly wait for the happy days of Bhagavata Dharma or Prema Dharma inaugurated by the Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Prabhupada's mission is nothing but the mission of Lord Krishna as expressed in Srimad Bhagavatam, which was clarified by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his mission. Okay, then text 4. So Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken in Naimisharanya. Regarding the location, a place was chosen where the strength of the demoniac people is curtailed. And it was spoken during a sacrifice which was performed for the pleasure of the Lord, in order to bring everyone peace and prosperity, by great sages who are anxious to do good to the people in general. Forgetful men do not know the right path for peace and prosperity. However, the sages know it well, and therefore, for the good of all men, they are always anxious to perform acts which may bring about peace in the world. They are sincere friends to all living entities, and at the risk of great personal inconvenience, they are always engaged in the service of the Lord for the good of all people. Lord Vishnu is just like a great tree, and all others, including the demigods, men, siddhas, charanas, vidyadharas, and other living entities, are like branches, twigs, and leaves of that tree. By pouring water on the root of the tree, all the parts of the tree are automatically nourished. Only those branches and leaves which are detached cannot be so satisfied. Detached branches and leaves dry up gradually despite all watering attempts. Similarly, human society, when it is detached from the personality of God, like detached branches and leaves, is not capable of being watered, and one attempting to do so is simply wasting his energy and resources. The modern materialistic society is detached from its relation to the Supreme Lord, and all its plans which are being made by atheistic leaders are sure to be baffled at every step. Yet they do not wake up to this. In this age, the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord is a prescribed method for waking up. The ways and means are most scientifically presented by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and intelligent persons may take advantage of his teachings in order to bring about real peace and prosperity. Srimad Bhagavatam is also presented for the same purpose, and this will be explained more specifically later in the text. This was Prabhupada's clear mission, to get human beings, mankind, to have mankind reattached to Krishna's lotus feet through the process of Bhakti Yoga. 16. Those who are engaged in the pure devotion service of the Lord, who are without any desire for self-aggrandizement, and who are freed from the effects of fruitive actions and dry philosophical speculations, are capable of getting out of the estrangements of this complicated age. The leaders of the people are very much anxious to live in peace and friendship, but they have no information of the simple method of hearing the glories of the Lord. On the contrary, such leaders are opposed to the propagation of the glories of the Lord. In other words, the foolish leaders want to completely deny the existence of the Lord. In the name of secular state, such leaders are enacting various plans every year. But by the insurmountable intricacies of the material nature of the Lord, all these plans for progress are being constantly frustrated. They have no eyes to see that their attempts at peace and friendship are failing. But here is a hint to get over the hurdle. If we want actual peace, we must open the road to understanding of the Supreme Lord Krishna and glorify him for his virtuous activities as they are depicted in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the method that Prabhupada also used. Identify the status of humanity in our age of Kali. Men almost always have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Always disturbed. The reason why these sages are bringing this out is because they are anxious to help the souls who are born as human beings in the age of Kali. So first symptom is Alpayusha. They would live short lives. And there's a reason why human beings in Kali Yuga live short lives. It's not because they don't have sufficient food, but because their habits are irregular. By keeping regular habits and eating simple food, any man can maintain his health. My first brother-in-law's father lived up to 90. So I asked my first younger sister, I said, how did he manage to do that? And she said, because he was highly regulated self-discipline. So it looks like people who are regulated actually can have long lives. By keeping regular habits and eating simple food, any man can maintain his health. Overeating, over sense gratification, over dependence on another's mercy, and artificial standards of living sap the very vitality of human energy. Therefore, the duration of life is shortened. Prayan alpayushaha sabhya kalavasmin yuge jana manda sumanda mataya. Manda, lazy materially and spiritually. That means they should inquire about what he is, what the world is, what the supreme truth is, so that he can get out of this miserable world and go back to God. But they have no desire. That's the meaning of lazy. Mandabhagya, victims, very poor, not good fortune, bad luck. They are diverted in so many ways. That too in today's world, even more diversions people have. Upadruta, their minds are always disturbed, full of anxieties. It also unfortunate in another manner. They manufacture their own religious faiths. So many sinful activities. Brahmacharya, Garhastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas, everything is messed up. Unnecessarily, there are complex nations, communities, and constantly there's some hot war or a cold war. So because they are so messed up, the sages knew that they will not be able to undergo the scriptural education in the regular system as it was in the previous yugas. Due to Kali Yuga, it is not possible to execute the rules and regulations of these institutions as it was before. Nor is it possible for the people in general to completely sever relations with their families as the Varnashram institution prescribes. So the people in general cannot execute all of this. Only a few can do. The whole atmosphere is surcharged with opposition. Spiritual emancipation for the common man in this age is very difficult. Somapati Prabhu.
Oh, regarding the simple food, having a simple food, just like we are dependent on the temple. So in the temple, whatever is prepared, we have to accept. There is no chance of accepting a simple food.
No, gradually you'll be able to implement it. Gradually you'll be able to implement it. We see in Mayapur also. You have not experienced what it was in the Brahmachari kitchen in the 90s and what it has become now. It is improved. Certainly. Still a lot more improvement is required, but still it has improved. It's become more sattvic. So these things happen over the decades. And when you get power to do good to others, then you can also execute it more in a sattvic manner. So you will be able to implement sattvic prasadam for those who are willing to accept it and so on. Gradually it comes. We are obedient to Prabhupada and the predecessors, then gradually we are able to progress. Comment on the relevance of Prabhupada's statement about modern education.
One more question.
Okay.
The meaning of over-dependence on others' mercy.
Just for livelihood, one is in today's world. See, if you look at prior to the industrial revolution, throughout the world, man was primarily dependent on agriculture. So his sustenance was not dependent on so many others. They all had their lands. And overall, life went on. But now, from the dollar rate drops somewhere, and some country gets affected by poverty. Some other country, not America. It's just wild. Foodstuffs are not locally grown. In certain countries, almost all foodstuffs are coming from other countries. All very dangerous arrangements. That's all I can say. Unnecessarily expensive. It's just too much of dependence on others for sustenance. That is why the only solution is chanting and living a life that is compatible with dharma in the mode of goodness, with an aim to attaining pure devotion service in order to achieve the perfection of pure devotion service. And it'll help in each and every sincere individual devotee's life. Positive change will occur, but over the days, weeks, months, years, decades, and maybe lifetimes also. But definitely they are progressing. Very clearly they will be able to see it themselves. Okay. Points for chapter 2. Reflect on the qualifications of Shukadeva Goswami as expressed by... No. I missed this. Comment on the relevance of Prabhupada's statement about modern education. People are so busy with sense gratification that they completely forget about self-realization. Out of madness, they frankly say that there is no need for self-realization because they do not realize that this brief life is but a moment on our great journey towards self-realization. The whole system of education is geared to sense gratification. And if a learned man thinks it over, he sees that the children of this age are being intentionally sent to the slaughterhouses of so-called education. There is dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and bhagavad prema. But the lowest of mankind are only interested in kama. But they are actually a minority. The majority are interested in artha and kama. Then you have a small minority interested in dharma and artha and kama. These are three levels of materialists. Then you have spiritualists who are interested, small minority, interested in moksha. And then you have even smaller group which is interested in Bhagavad Prema. In general, you have an intermediate group which is interested in moksha and Bhagavad Prema. And the rarest of the rare are those who desire only Bhagavad Prema. So in that way, you have three grades of materialists, three grades of spiritualists. But the system of education is pushing people towards reckless sense enjoyment. Like we see in today's world, they're telling that climate change is creating a is a symptom of a very deep problem. You're interested in sense enjoyment, that type of sense enjoyment that you cannot even give to your own grandchildren. You are messing up with the environment, but they don't care. They don't care. They don't even want that kind of artha, which will actually make their own minds happy later on. This is called madness. And the whole system of education is geared towards this. How to attain money, how to attain reputation. That's all. Whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. So that is why Prabhupada refers to it as slaughterhouses of so-called education. Okay, reflect on the qualifications of Shukadeva Goswami as expressed by Sutta Goswami. 1 to 4. But why am I like this? Like, might as well. This big. Not this big also. I'm supposed to like this. This. No. This was the wrong. Shukadeva Goswami's qualifications are that he did not even require to accept Upanayana or Vedic initiation, even though he was born to Vyasadeva himself. He was a Paramahamsa from birth. He could even console his own father. He was the spiritual master of all sages because when he spoke, everybody else submissively listened. It is out of great compassion that he spoke this Purana, which explains Vedanta Sutra. After having personally assimilated it by experience, after experiencing the transcendental nature of Krishna's pastimes. Reflect on applying the principles of simple living in their personal lives. Yeah. Yeah. Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. One should only desire self-preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's works. So the whole idea is that one should not live for sense gratification. One should satisfy the senses as much as required for self-preservation, not for sense gratification. So in our own lives, we should be able to implement this principle by taking advantage of more advanced devotees. That means devotees more fixed in Vairagya Vidya and Hari Bhakti. We should be able to keep our body and minds sufficiently peaceful to execute the 64 items of Bhakti Yoga. progress in Krishna consciousness. Progress in Krishna consciousness means progress in full-fledged obedience to the teachings of Upadeshamrita, step by step, verse by verse. Explain the importance of hearing the Bhagavatam. This is 12 to 22 means this is Satam Kripa Mahat Seva, Shraddha, Gurupada Shreya, Bhajashuspriha Bhaktiranatha Bhagamastata, Nishtha, Ruchiratha Sakti, Ratifremata Darshanam, Harer Madhuryanabhava, Ityarthasius Chaturdasha. So, first of all, hearing the Bhagavatam refers to submissively hearing the Bhagavatam. Submissively hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam means desiring to obey the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, the whole idea is we should accept the basic principle that I will accept the goal of perfect pure devotional service, and I will enter into a life of pure devotional service or do whatever is required to come to that point. So there's a whole process for it. And when we follow the process step by step, then we actually make spiritual progress. So hearing the Bhagavatam is relevant from the very first stage, Satam Kripa, up to the final stage, Harer Madhurya Anubhava, because Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. There is no bona fide sadhu sangha without hearing the Bhagavatam. And when we say Bhagavatam, we can as well include Prabhupada's explanation of Bhagavad Gita and Prabhupada's explanation of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada's presentation of Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Present the standard of transcendental religion. Transcendental religion. Vaipumsam paro dharma yatho bhakti radhokshaje ahaitukya pratihata eyatma suprasidati. Since religion is meant to promote love of God necessarily must be unmotivated love. Even in this world, say a woman has unmotivated affection for her husband, and it is also uninterrupted, then she is considered to be fully loving her husband. The same way, when we have unmotivated, uninterrupted engagement in devotional service to Lord Krishna, then that is loving devotional service unto Krishna. So whether they identify the Supreme Being as Krishna or through any other name, as long as they are monotheistic, even if they do not accept Vedic authority, as long as they accept this, then we have a standard with which we can evaluate whether you're more spiritual or less spiritual. And when that is there, the next step is one will experience realized knowledge and detachment from the world. So if these two are, to whatever degree these two are not there, to that degree, one has not progressed. So these are standard principles by which we can evaluate whether a religious person, of any religion, whether he is more spiritual or less spiritual. Those who are more spiritual can benefit humanity. Those who are less spiritual only spoil humanity. Present the three features of the absolute truth: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. There's only one absolute truth, but he is partially perceived as Paramatma and vaguely perceived as Brahman. The example of the sun rays, the sun god, that is presented. The impersonal Brahman is the glowing effulgence of the personality of Godhead. Paramatma is a partial representation of the personality of Godhead. So through different pathways, different degrees of spiritual realization are presented as goals. So for the students of the Upanishads, the ultimate achievement uh, can be said to be realization of the impersonal Brahman, the glowing effulgence of the Lord, in which one realizes that one is qualitatively one with the Supreme Being. That's all. Whereas on the pathway of the Hiranyagarbhas or the yogis, one realizes that despite being qualitatively one with the Lord, there is also a quantitative difference. And when one experiences Bhagavan realization, one realizes that one is qualitatively one with the Lord, one is quantitatively different from the Lord, and that the Supreme Lord is the source of rasa. Present Krishna in relation to his various expansions. Why did I come here? First of all, worship of Lord Krishna has always been there. Since time immemorial, it has been there. They have been rendering service unto Lord Vasudeva, son of Vasudeva, with great delight. Krishna's Gunavatars, they deal with Satoguna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. And nevertheless, even though Lord Vishnu is controlling the mode of goodness, he is actually transcendental. And he has been worshipped to become transcendent. And the Lord's expansions, they are all blissful. And those who are in Sattva Guna, they are capable of worshipping him. But it is Lord Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan, who is ultimately the object of the Vedic scriptures in every manner. Explain the role that Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam plays in his mission. Okay. Read this out. This is the kind of thing which we should read out to ourselves repeatedly. This explains Prabhupada's focus on his. And he had a particular focused method of spreading the teachings of Bhagavatam. Krishna is our most intimate master, friend, father, or son, and object of conjugal love. Forgetting Krishna, we have created so many objects of questions and answers, but none of them are able to give us complete satisfaction. All things but Krishna give temporary satisfaction only. So if we are to have complete satisfaction, we must take to the questions and answers about Krishna. We cannot live for a moment without being questioned or without giving answers. Because the Srimad Bhagavatam deals with questions and answers that are related to Krishna, we can derive the highest satisfaction only by reading and hearing this transcendental literature. One should learn the Srimad Bhagavatam and make an all-around solution to all problems pertaining to social, political, or religious matters. Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna are the sum total of all things. This is how Prabhupada presented Krishna consciousness. He did not say that whatever people are doing, just add Krishna into their lives. His point was very simple. So the first step is Bhagavad Gita. You start wherever you are and you end with surrender to Krishna. Surrender to Krishna means you give up everything and you engage in manmana, you obey manmana bhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaste. Give up adharma, give up dharma, give up everything. That's all. You cannot do that. Then at least organize your life in such a manner that it will become possible in the future. Next step is Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam begins with that point. It is for those who have already surrendered fully, because only they can understand the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. And Bhagavatam ends with Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranasham. And Chaitanya Charitamrita begins where Bhagavatam left. It begins with the point of pure Nama Sankirtana and reveals the spiritual world, the nature of the spiritual world. Explain the importance of occupational duties in Krishna consciousness. Occupational duties in Krishna consciousness. So when we perform our occupational duties are of a few varieties. Samanya dharma, common duties, and Savishesha dharma, specific duties. Samanya dharma are the same for all men and all women. Then Savishesha dharma are specific duties. Specific duties for men pertain to Varna dharma and Ashrama dharma. Specific duties for women are brought within the category of Stri dharma. So this is what we refer to as occupational activities. Samanya dharma have been brought out in different places, but nowadays I'm beginning to think that it is important to consider this list. Fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, that means greed, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from passion for honor. These transcendental qualities belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. So this can be taken as one standard. Otherwise, other list is what I had worked out. From Bhagavatam 11th canto. Cleanliness, honesty, abstinence from thievery, faith, abstinence from unnecessary violence, freedom from lust, freedom from anger, freedom from greed, endeavor for the happiness and welfare of all creatures. This much should be acceptable to followers of all monotheistic systems also. So this can be taken as common duties. What everyone is meant to do. Everyone is meant to be clean, honest, abstain from thievery, have faith. Of course, there are 3 levels of faith. There is, first of all, there is faith in the afterlife. Paraloka Astitva. Then there is faith in the Supreme Lord, Sarveshwara Astitva. And then there is faith in the spotless authority of the Vedas. Veda Pramanya Astitva. Abstinence from unnecessary violence, freedom from lust, freedom from anger, freedom from greed, endeavor for the happiness and welfare of all creatures. So, this is Samanya Dharma. And then after Samanya Dharma, oh, what happened? Then you have Savishesha Dharmas. So, Bhagavatam points out that, okay, come here, okay, that if we execute this, but we do not become attracted to the message of the personality of Godhead. The message of the personality of Godhead is Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru and sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. This is the message of the personality of Godhead. Ultimate message, supreme message. And this is the message of the Bhagavatam. This is Krishna's message in Bhagavatam also. And this is the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Chaitanya Charitamrita also. All of us are meant to come to this point. So if we don't become attracted to this, then everything that we are doing is simply a waste of time. And the reason for that is set out here. All of these material dharmas are meant for ultimate liberation. Even though they produce material gain, they are not actually meant for material gain. And material gain is not to cultivate sense gratification, even though material gain does produce good opportunity for sense gratification. So we should dedicate our life not towards material gain, sense gratification, rather in order to preserve ourselves so that we can know, understand, and realize the absolute truth. Who is realized vaguely as Brahman, impersonal Brahman, partially as semi-personal Paramatma, and fully as personal Bhagavan. So this should be our goal. This realization of Bhagavan is what is referred to as Prema Bhakti. Explain the importance of gaining Brahmanical qualities for relishing the Bhagavatam. 24. Without coming to the mode of goodness, one cannot realize the absolute truth. We cannot be in Tamoguna or Rajoguna and directly come up. The uncivilized state of life or the life of the lower animals is controlled by the mode of tamas. The civilized life of a man with a passion for various types of material benefits is the stage of rajas. In other words, when we are simply impulsive, we are under tamoguna. When we are grossly impulsive, when we go by our subtle impulses, that is rajoguna. The rajas stage of life gives a slight clue to the realization of the absolute truth in the forms of fine sentiments in philosophy, art, and culture with moral and ethical principles. But the mode of sattva is a still higher stage of material quality, which actually helps on in realizing the absolute truth. So unless we come to the mode of goodness, we cannot actually progress in Krishna consciousness. It's simply impossible. Then present Krishna in relation to his various expansions. Let me deal with this first. So first of all, we have a description of the Purusha avatars. Karanvakshayi Vishnu and Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. The presence of Kshirodakshayi Vishnu is implied. And those who are perfect devotees, they can perceive these spiritual forms. And then there's a list of various incarnations. Various significant incarnations, you can say. Certain incarnations are considered important in Srimad Bhagavatam. And that list is now presented. So you have the Kumaras, we have Varaha, Narada Muni, Naranarayana, Kapila, Dattatreya, Yagya, Rishabha, Prithu, Matsya, Kurma, Dhanvantari, Mohini, Nrisimha, Vamana, Bhrigupati, Vyasa, Rama, Balarama, Sri Krishna, Buddha, Kalki, and then there's a statement that there are innumerable incarnations. And it is also pointed out that anyone who is especially powerful is empowered by the Lord. And then text 28 points out that Lord Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. This topic is very elaborately demonstrated in Krishna Sandarbha. But the starting point of the discussion is this list here. With this conclusion, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Achyutanam Prabhu.
Prabhuji, Kali-yuga people are simply impulsive. Rajogun people, Tamogun people are impulsive, and Rajogun people are grossly impulsive. What is the difference? I could not. When you
In
said
Tamoguna, one goes by the bodily impulses. In Rajoguna, one goes by his mental and intellectual impulses.
so,
That's all.
if lust is impelling someone to do some wrong act, rape or something, is it
It's not
bodily?
tamasic, it's tamasic. It's tamasic.
But it's not in body; it's in mental body. Like
If you see in the law, in the broad, from the broad perspective, like in Bhagavad Gita, karma is discussed in the 3rd chapter. But that karma refers to all kinds of material desires.
Mhm.
Karma primarily refers to sexual lust because karma refers to fulfilling material desires, which means experiencing favorable material, sound, touch, form, taste, smell. And this is best experienced in the association of a woman. Therefore, karma primarily refers to associating with a woman.
Mhm.
And it is tamasic. By itself, it is tamasic. Only when you bring in dharma, it becomes rajasic. Even then, there is rajas plus tamas. Okay. So that's it for this. All right. We'll stop with that. Pancha kalpatarvyasya kripasintu bhyo vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.